you ever considered that we are living in a unique time, that something world-changing is about to happen, and that it might concern you? If so, you're in the right place. Keep listening, and you'll hear thought-provoking views behind the news that point to a new and better future for all. Many people now sense that humanity is not alone. So consider this. If the Christ or the Buddha walked among us today as modern men, would we recognize them? What would they be saying? And most importantly, would we listen? Every Sunday on this program, Share International Radio will examine extraordinary events that are unfolding behind the headline news. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for. And now, welcome to this week's show.
Indeed, there has never been a more urgent time for a message of hope. My name is Cielito Pascual, and welcome to Share International Radio. I will be your host today and for the next 2 Sundays. My special thanks to Diana Gold-Holland for hosting the past 2 Sundays. And if you missed her show last week, the November 8th show, you can hear it in archives. And I really encourage you to listen to that show. She presents some information that is very heartening about the emergence of Maitreya, the world teacher. She gives a fantastic overview of his concerns and his concerns for humanity and the teachings he's presenting to us to help us remake this world. And at the end of the program, or in the last segment, we get to hear an audio recording of one of Maitreya's messages. And I will tell you in advance that every time one listens to that recording, the energies of Maitreya can be received and maybe even felt by the listener. And that may be very timely for all of us right now to be nourished by powerful spiritual energies from our eldest brother of humanity. So, today is November 15th. 2015, and in the past several days, the world has witnessed victories for humanity and tragedies as well. On one hand, we've seen people power demonstrated throughout the United States and around the world, particularly where I am broadcasting from beautiful Seattle, which was sunny 20 minutes ago. Now it's cloudy. In any case, we've seen people power demonstrated here as a force against corporate-funded politics. We re-elected a democratic socialist to city council, which is incredibly significant when we consider how politics is run locally and in this country, oftentimes on the basis of money. And people power defeated money. We also saw in another part of the country, at the University of Missouri, the people power of the students to bring about change, calling for the resignation of certain high administrative officials due to the mishandling of incidents that indicated a racial bias. And that victory emboldened students across the country in the recent Million Student March. And yet, a day later, we see the tragic events in Paris, where human beings somehow took up an endeavor to slaughter other human beings. You know, how does that happen? So we have today a guest. And of course, you know, all these events are very baffling and bewildering. So the point of this show is really to generate for our listeners, hopefully, a sense of hope and a sense of coming out of a sense of understanding why these disparate events are unfolding seemingly so rapidly. And I'm very pleased to introduce to our Share International Radio audience my dear friend, William Allen. He is a writer, a journalist, and he's also a carpenter and longtime student of the Ageless Wisdom teachings. He raised his family living off the grid in Northern California, And Alan will share with us the esoteric perspective on the greatest challenges of modern times, and will show us how an understanding of esoteric energies and the emerging trends can help us resolve world problems and open up the way for a renaissance for all of humanity. William, thank you for taking the time to be on the show today.
My pleasure. Happy to be with you.
And I just want to share with the audience that you do live off the grid, but you are on the grid for the moment. You traveled 45 minutes to the civilized town of Elk, California, where you are now. It's a beautiful little coastal town overlooking the Pacific Ocean. And so this was a bit of an endeavor, but I know that you travel many places to share your story as a public speaker. So we'll start with learning about you. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to find the Ageless Wisdom teachings and came to understand this event that we are describing on every Sunday on the show about the emergence of the Masters of Wisdom and the senior master of the masters, Maitreya, the world teacher. How did you come to that information?
Well, briefly, I was raised in a small rural town in northern New England. I was raised a Catholic. I was a good altar boy for many years, but I wasn't really a devoted religious person. I was just kind of going through the motions very well because, well, that's what young men did when you were raised in the Catholic Church. And as I matured, my easement into agnosticism was pretty painless. When I went to college, I was in a liberal arts track in college, and I took a class in comparative religion, which was really quite exciting. I found myself very attracted to Eastern religions and philosophies, especially Buddhism, Hinduism, and various systems within those two. And then I was given some books by the well-known West Coast mystic and writer Alan Watts. And reading his books really opened my mind even further to alternative visions of spirituality. I moved to California in the mid-'70s. And in the late 70s, I came across the Ageless Wisdom teachings as given out by the Alice Bailey writings. She, of course, took dictations from one of the Masters of Wisdom, the Master Jalkul, and wrote some mini books based upon his dictation. And her writings led me to explore further with the theosophical writings, Helena Blavatsky, and of course her great magnum opus, The Secret Doctrine. And it really opened up my thinking about how constricted everything was before. Just a whole new perspective on myself, on the reality that I exist in, and on the reality that we all exist in. And then it was in the late 70s, probably in 1980, that I can't say it was coincidence. I was sort of guided in a certain strange way to the work of Benjamin Creme, the British author, who has been the principal spokesperson for the emergence of Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom. And within a couple of weeks of reading his first book, The Reappearance of the Christ and the Masters of Wisdom, I found myself at his first lecture in the Bay Area, and I knew as a result of my experience there and experiences after that this was the path that I needed to be on now. So it's just gone on from there.
And what, when you said it was the path that you needed to be on, what resonated for you so significantly? You obviously were doing a considerable amount of study prior to that.
Well, to be honest, I had what can only be called as a visionary experience that sort of keyed me in that direction. I was laying in bed one morning, And I was sort of in that netherworld between waking consciousness and sleep. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You're not really asleep and dreaming, but you're not fully awake. And in that space, a very powerful vision of a man came into my consciousness. I mean, it's as if a brilliant 3D TV screen was turned on in my mind. And it was a man I had never seen before in my life. And he didn't speak. He had a very kind of wise, all-knowing, friendly smile, long hair, a beard, lightish hair, bluish eyes. He did not speak, but my brain registered the impression of a message which was, well, it's about time that you started doing what you came into the world to do. That, in a nutshell, is the gist of the message. And that was it. It just kind of faded away after a few moments. And I quickly got up and wrote it all down. I thought it had to do with something completely different that I was considering and getting involved with. And yet it was within, like I said, it was within weeks of that experience that I was handed Krem's book, and it was within literally a couple of weeks of being handed Mr. Krem's book that I saw posters for his lecture, and it was within a week of that I was at the lecture, and there was just a sort of intuitive understanding as a result of the energies that I felt at that lecture, that I knew that this was it.
Thank you for sharing that story, because I imagine that a number of people listening probably have had a similar experience and probably didn't know to share it with anyone else, and are hearing your story now and are connecting all this information. We're going into a break, and after the break we're going to go into a little more detail of understanding this time we're living in. We're moving out of the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, sort of the dichotomies that exist. So stay with us. Come back after the break. We'll be here.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Share International Magazine is unique in the world today. It draws connections that make sense between headline news and spiritual changes unfolding now on a global scale, and explains the forces driving those changes. It may be the message of hope you have been waiting for. Investigate for yourself at shareontheairradio.org. That's shareontheairradio.org. shareontheairradio.org.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
Simone Milasas would like you to know that business can be fun, which is why she wrote the book, Joy of Business. What if you could have the joy of business rather than the stress and struggle? Most of the time, the only thing stopping you from a thriving business is you. In the Joy of Business book, Simone gives you access consciousness tools and pragmatic ways to get out of your own way and to create the business, life, and living you know is possible and beyond what this reality says is achievable. Business is joy. It's creation. It's generative. It can be the adventure of living. You can purchase your copy of the book through Amazon or Joy of Business website, www.accessjoyofbusiness.com.
Come heal yourself. What is healing? Healing is nothing but connecting to your all-knowing higher self that already has solutions to all your problems and is always there to guide you. Through this show, we help you to connect with that you are and help you realize the innate potential you have to heal every aspect of your life. So come heal yourself every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern, with your host, Monica Goyal. Namaste.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And we're back with William Allen talking about the relevance of the Ageless Wisdom teachings to what is happening today in the world. William, so we'll start there. Give us some context. Why should we pay attention to this information? What are some tools to help us to understand? Just what's the basis that helps us understand what's happening in the world?
Well, everything is a manifestation of energy. It is a basic esoteric axiom that there is nothing in the whole of the manifested universe but energy, vibrating at certain frequencies, circulating throughout everything in cosmos. And this is not some mystical or New Age fancy. This is confirmed by our own physicists. Ask a quantum physicist, what's everything in the universe made of? And the answer will be light. Light, energy, on a basic fundamental level. We ourselves are just bundles of organized energies, and as such, we are related to all other energies. So using that as a basis, what we start to see by understanding something about the Ageless Wisdom teachings, which basically look at the evolution, the manifestation and evolution of all creation from the standpoint of energy, we can begin to see that the actions that are happening in the world, the great events, the terrible events as well as the wonderful events, are the working out of forces and energies that humanity responds to. And by trying not to be swept up in the emotional reactions to these things, but being able to sort of see the broader picture, the grander picture of how humanity in its evolution is responding to various energetic stimuli, we can begin to understand the causes behind these tremendous effects that we see working out every day around us.
And I want to point something out that you said that I think is so important for our listeners to hear before we go further. Not being swept up in the emotional reactions. I know so many people, including myself, I think we're being challenged by all these energies flooding in the world in many ways. And even with everything that I know, it's a challenge. But especially with the events of recent days, it's a challenge. If you're plugged into media constantly, we're getting messages that really are playing on our fears. And fear is an energy that is so corrosive and so destructive. It really behooves us to recognize the way in which we're seeing these messages, whether on our Facebook feed or in the news, to see how those energies are compromising our ability to think clearly. So I just wanted to point that out, and I appreciate you bringing that up. So,
yes, well, that's a very good point, because taking that a little bit further, it's imperative that people understand that we are living at a very unique time in human history. There has never, ever been a time like the time we are living in now. There is a huge clash of forces happening on the planet. We are living through that difficult transition period between one civilization dying and another civilization struggling to be born. And this is a result of the fact that for the past 2,000 years, we have been under the influence of the energies streaming to this planet from the constellation Pisces. And our civilization was built up as a result of our response to those energies. What's happening is the energies from Pisces are withdrawing every single day and have been for a couple of centuries. And the new energies from Aquarius are coming in with a completely different quality. They embody completely different ideas and ideals. And there is the old guard on the planet who only know the old ways of living, the old competitive, selfish, individualistic, nationalistic ways instilled by the individualistic energies of Pisces, and those who are responding to the new energies of Aquarius, which is about fusion, synthesis, holism, interconnectedness, recognizing that we are all part of one family. And that clash between those energies is the great conflict that's happening on the planet at this time. And believe me, the old guard, which are, let's face it, the majority of the power on the planet, political, economic, social, military, is under the control of those who believe and who love the old, competitive, selfish, nationalistic ways. And the growth of the new ideas, the growth of the movements of people power is a direct threat to that. And the old guard will do whatever they can, including using violence, to maintain their hold, even though basically they probably must see the writing on the wall that because of the entrance into the world of Maitreya and the Masters, their time is almost over.
And I want to just jump back for a second to illustrate something about the energies of Pisces. Those are necessary energies. They were needed for the evolution of humanity. We developed out of what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of a tribal thinking.
Or
a herd mentality. Thank you. Herd instinct. We evolved out of that into recognizing ourselves as individuals, and we take that so for granted today.
Yes, it's a great step forward in evolution to some of the great ideas of the power of the individual, that the individual matters, that I am important. This sense of the power of the individual was inspired as a result of Pisces. Some of the great ideals, liberté, égalité, fraternité, the French Revolution, recognizing the power of the people and of the person. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. All of these great ideals were inspired by the energies of Pisces. You're absolutely right. And inevitably, our response to that has determined whether or not we have actually made those ideals a reality on the ground. And unfortunately, they remain mostly ideals, don't they?
Yeah, it's interesting to reflect on that, to think, yeah, they're just ideals. They're not. Do we really have a democracy in the United States? Do we really have freedom? If there is not justice for everyone in this country, do we have true freedom? And if there's not true freedom, do we have real justice? So it is sort of daunting to consider that there's that we've received these great energies of Pisces and we're still struggling along. But I want to keep us on the track of hope here by first recognizing the negative impacts of the energies of Pisces. We have about 3 minutes before our break to talk about how these conflicts are manifesting literally in our headline news. The conflicts between the energies of Aquarius and the energies of Pisces, between the old guard and the new.
Well, one that I see, of course, is the apparent death grip that the economic totalitarianism of the West has on the world. We have developed an economic system that is really a lie. Market forces, which is sort of the new god, the new golden calf that we're all supposed to worship, are the forces of inequality. They are based on greed. They are based on selfishness. There's a sort of Piscean separativeness to them. And yet we have been propagandized to believe that it is the be-all and end-all of how we should organize our economic and, in turn, our political society. And this has led to a huge division on the planet because market forces are leading to the greatest inequality in resources and income ever seen on the planet. I mean, maybe even not since Rome and the peasants has it been this bad. And many economists who are the more sharpened pencils in the pile have been pointing this out for years and years and years. And yet it just keeps going and going and going. And if you want to see a real example of how market forces and the idea of selfishness is so dangerous, just pay attention to what's going around with the various so-called trade treaties, the TPP, the TTIP, and all of that. That is literally a corporate coup d'etat on democratic systems around the world. And so that's an example right there.
Oh, and I so hope our audience, who I know are very spiritually oriented, are also oriented to understanding what's happening in the world. Sometimes we want to escape from reality, and we can't afford to do that. We have to be active. We have to understand these things. We have to understand what's happening in the world, even though it may seem very overwhelming. But being in vagueness about reality certainly is not going to move us forward. So I appreciate you mentioning those really grave, serious issues that are facing humanity. We are going to move into a break. So in our next segment, we're going to focus more on Maitreya's teachings. We'll talk a little bit more about how these energies are manifesting, but also focusing on Maitreya's teachings and how that can help us get out of the death grip of these old forces. Join us after the break.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio.
Did you know that Share International Radio is more than just a podcast? If you're hungry for thought-provoking views behind the news, there may be a Share International event happening soon near you, providing a spiritual perspective you'll find nowhere else. To locate an event in your area, visit shareontheairradio.org. That's shareontheairradio.org. shareontheairradio.org.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know, I tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Hi, this is Julie Geigel.
I'm Maggie Chula.
And I'm Catherine Glass.
And we're the Psychic Angel Channelers. Join us every week here on OMTimes Radio for Angel Talk Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
The angels have heard your call and are here to help.
Are you ready to receive?
Remember your magnificence with Angel Talk Tuesday.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
Welcome back, Share International Radio. My name is Cielito Pascual with William Allen, and I will promote next Sunday's show by saying the fruit does not fall far from the tree. I will be interviewing Olivia Allen, 20-year-old daughter of my guest today, William. And she will present a perspective as a young person, as a student, also very concerned about the future for herself, her and for the world. And she has gone on her own journey, inspired by her parents and also independent of her parents, with the Ageless Wisdom teachings. So join us next Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time for Share International Radio. And if you have any questions, please post them to Facebook. I will be honest, my technology is awkward and I can't get onto Facebook to see your questions now, but we will try to answer them next week. And we're working on being a little more live and interactive for you. But do visit our Facebook page, Share International Radio. Follow us there so you can be updated on upcoming shows and post your questions that are coming to mind as we're listening to William. I guess what I want to turn to now is, I think a lot of people are feeling anxiety, and it's personally, when I share this story, it's for the purpose of relieving people of their fear and anxiety, because the less we are in the grip of fear, the more we can take action. I think you would agree, William, as well. So do you mind if we go to some questions that were published in Share International magazine in November of 2001 regarding 9/11? Can we do that?
Okay.
One of the questions that was put to Benjamin Krem, the chief editor, and which was answered by one of the Masters of Wisdom, was there no way, and I'll let you answer. I'll let you answer, William. Was there no way the Masters could have prevented the terrorist attack on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon?
The Masters of Wisdom are the elder brothers of humanity. They are the inner guides, but they live by certain laws. And one of those laws is the law of human free will. We must learn by our own mistakes, by our own actions, how to evolve. They can intervene in certain respects. They can mitigate the effects of our choices, but they cannot force us or prevent us from doing things, even if they are the wrong things. My understanding is and this is borne out by published investigative reporting over the past several years, the Bush administration was warned months in advance that such an attack was coming, and they did nothing about it. In their arrogance, in their sense of invincibility, both the Pentagon, the Defense Department, and the White House were given warnings, some even sent by hierarchy. So disciples of the Masters who are in the diplomatic service, both here and abroad, warned that such an attack was coming, and nothing was done.
That's amazing. And that was indeed published in this issue of Share International. And on the topic of free will, I'd like to also say that when we present this information, this is for the listener's consideration only. We're not asking people to believe this just because we say it. If it resonates with some amount of truth for you, then certainly investigate for yourself. Look at what's happening in the news. Does it correlate with what we're saying? Read, go visit the website share-international.org. That is the website, the main website for Share International and Share International magazine. That's share-international.org. Another question that was published in that issue, and the question was, did the Masters have a part in mitigating the effects of those attacks in any way? And one can assume that in any disaster or any tragedy that happens on any kind of scale, whether large or small, the Masters are there. And so, William, how were the Masters present at 9/11?
They are the ultimate first responders. Anytime there was such a disaster, they're always first on the scene to do whatever they can to ameliorate the suffering and the pain. They help escort those who are dying over to the other side. They sometimes save people's lives if their karma permits it. And this is why I want to circle back to the second half of my answer to your first question, why they couldn't stop it. We all need to understand that some of these attacks, some of these incredible events are effects of causes that we ourselves have put into motion. One of the things that Maitreya and the masters are here to teach us are what are called the laws of life. And one of these laws of life is what is called the law of cause and effect, the law of karma in the East, the law of action and reaction. All of our thoughts, words, and deeds set into motion causes, and these causes return to us as effects. I mean, you've heard the old platitude, what goes around comes around. Mm-hmm. Well, it's at the basis of most religious teachings, too. It is the underlying principle behind the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Because if you do to others, it will be done to you. The attacks of 9/11 could not be stopped because they were the working out to a certain degree of karma, of negative consequences that had been built up by the actions of the Western powers themselves, militarily, economically, and politically. And those buildings that were attacked, the Pentagon, the symbol of the great military dominance of the Western powers for decades, the World Trade Center, symbol of economic totalitarianism of the West over the rest of the world, and the White House was going to be the other target. It was a karmic effect that had built up over decades of violence and the sort of cavalier belief that we in the West can control people around the west of the world economically, politically, and militarily. It eventually built up to an explosion of energy, and it was going to come back one way or another, but that's the way it came back.
So when we hear people say, oh, they just hate our freedoms, that's why they do that. What's your response to that?
Well, it is basically ignorance speaking. It is an ideology speaking. It is speaking with the emotions rather than with the mind. One of the few sicknesses that I would say that America particularly suffers from is self-delusion. We have this idea that we are doing good around the world by overthrowing other governments and installing regimes friendly to us. Well, there's nothing good about that. Behind all of that is a nefarious quest for power, for dominance, for wealth, and for control. And so that's just for the masses. When politicians come out with statements like that, it is a huge delusion meant to distract people from the real situation, which is that their government has been involved in all sorts of less than honorable shenanigans around the planet, basically since the end of World War II, and even before then.
And that leads back to what we were talking about earlier about the death grip of capitalism, literally, on humanity, that there's this just massive dysfunction of thinking that is perpetuating a notion of just burning through life in order to gain profit. I think it's difficult for us to understand that, but I think, to use a phrase that I heard from one of Maitreya's messages, there's a divine discontent among the people that I know. And I think I see it expressed on my Facebook feed and among other people thinking seriously. We may not know why we're feeling this divine discontent, but we know that our economic and our political systems are not addressing human needs. And people are getting angry and expressing themselves, either choosing to be part of one party or another party. But there is just a discomfort, a massive discomfort, and an understanding that whatever's going on is not good for anyone except for a tiny handful of people on this planet.
Yes, and people feel disempowered. There's a message given out by the media in this country especially, and in other Western countries, that the system is fine. It just needs to be tweaked here and there. It's not anything to do with the system. It's just your own failings. Thoreau said it, most men lead lives of quiet desperation. And that's the state we're in. Just look at the state of health in America today, the most medicated society on the face of the earth. Something like 60% of American adults are now taking some sort of medication for psychological issues. The system is literally killing us. And people don't know where to turn, what to do. And the platitudes that we're getting from various politicians are just not helping, because they know in a deep sort of intuitive sense that what is really needed is fundamental change. But at the same time, people are hesitant and fearful of change because they're not sure if it's going to be changed for the better. So they want change, but at the same time, this fear of the unknown, the insecurity of what change will bring, keeps people inert, and it keeps them from acting and demanding the change that their inner self is telling them has to happen.
And in the next segment, we will talk about the help of the masters and Maitreya, the world teacher, to give us that courage to get out of inertia and to demand the change that we as humanity deserve. Stay with us.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Now there's a book about UFOs that stands out. British author Benjamin Creme has worked directly with the Space Brothers and writes about their spiritual mission in The Gathering of the Forces of Light, a truly inspiring book. Visit shareontheairradio.org for details. That's shareontheairradio.org. shareontheairradio.org.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience in all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
If you remember living fearlessly, joyfully, and in a world filled with adventure, happiness, pleasure, and unbridled living, then this show is for you. Join me, Dame Nicole Brandon, as I bring you the world's top experts in wealth, creativity, flow, sea-edging technology, space, wellness, health, love, lust, and passion, all merging together each week here at the Hub of Happiness. Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Passionate Living. where you can ride on the magic carpet ride of living and learn how to lead a passionately wild, exciting, and outrageously amazing life.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Thanks for staying with us. Share International Radio. I'm Cielito Pascual with William Allen. And William, I want to share an excerpt from one of Maitreya's messages. And if our listeners are interested in reading those messages, they are at the website share-international.org. So I will read this. It really addresses a great point to start from. In our final segment, Maitreya said, "My friends, show yourselves as men and women ready to act as heroes, as warriors of old, filled with joy and love, ready for the tasks of succor and love which will fall to you. Have no fear. My brothers, your shoulders shall be strengthened by me." That is such a simple and yet poignant and poetic, such poetic words of encouragement in this time. And how do you see this message from Maitreya being useful and relevant in this time where we've got so many challenges?
Well, Maitreya knows, because of his incredibly evolved spiritual status. He is omniscient, omnipresent, and he is one with all mankind. He knows what is in the hearts and minds of every person on the planet. And he knows that of the 7 billion people on the planet right now, 2 billion people, not everybody, but enough to form a critical mass, 2 billion people are inwardly ready to work for the changes that he will advocate. Many people think, oh, you're just talking about a savior, somebody who's going to come and wave a magic wand and do it for us. Not so. Maitreya and his group, the Masters of Wisdom, are teachers, are advisors. They have the solutions that they can recommend for solving our most critical problems. But the work has to be done by us, by an enlightened, educated public opinion, millions of people demanding change. Power never concedes without a demand, as Frederick Douglass said. And that's exactly what Maitreya and the Masters are here to do, is to galvanize, to stimulate those who are ready for change, to get off our butts and to get out there and demand it. And it's not just a good rap that they have. It's just not a good talk. They literally are transmitting energies that are stimulating, that are enlivening and electrifying our sense of ourselves as divine beings and our sense of ourselves having the power to change things. So in that sense, it's an unprecedented time. But people have to take responsibility. Nothing happens by itself. We have to do the work. Humanity has to be its own savior. And with Maitreya and the Masters as advisors, as counselors, we can do it. We can actually do it. But people have to act.
And on that, I want to share another excerpt from one of Maitreya's messages. He says, "My energies of love and will create a reservoir of truth from which all men may drink. Keep open your heart to this higher stream and make yourself a channel for me." So what you're saying, William, is like this energy is available to us now. We can be in our actions towards sharing and justice. We're being galvanized by the master. We don't have to wait for it. We don't have to wait for something in the mail, or we don't have to download anything, and it's available to us. Is that what you're saying?
The energies are always available. That's what Maitreya and the masters are, essentially, is great powerhouses, transmission points of unbelievably potent energies that can stimulate people, that can give them hope, that can give them the energy to do the work. It's like, to those that have, more will be given. Well, that doesn't have to do with money, as the Christian fundamentalists say.
Or those who give. For those who give, more shall be given.
Something like that, yes. It has nothing to do with money. It has to do with the energy, your inspiration. It's simply a matter of making up your mind to get involved and to do it, and to recognize that people power is the greatest force on the planet. And if we can simply keep organizing and keep demanding, do whatever it takes to get the attention of those in power, that has to be done. It's critical now.
And the way I do that in my life here in Seattle is through my activist work. And what I've learned is that it really takes getting out of one's comfort zone. We can't change the world in our spare time. It really is about learning, being with people, being willing to take the action. Here we just reelected a Democratic Socialist to City Council. Her name is Shama Sawant, and that involved knocking on 90,000 doors. While our rival was just throwing money around for TV ads, we were knocking on doors. And that's the kind of work that brings about a revolution, a change. That brings about a new world. You exercise those muscles, and one keeps going out there and hitting the streets and wearing the comfortable shoes so you can keep hitting the streets.
Exactly.
If you
and
cannot,
there's one other way too.
Yes.
That is the use of physical energy. But since this show is about the energies, there is another way that people can easily serve the planet, helping the masters, and that is to become direct centers through which these galvanizing energies can go into the world. And there is a simple process for doing that called transmission meditation, which was introduced by one of the masters in the 70s. It is the easiest form of world service that anybody can do. It is a group meditation by which a group comes together and becomes a sort of transformer through which these powerful energies are sent by the masters. They are circulated by the group and then are sent out into the world and perform beneficent results. They are right now being used to uphold and nourish people working for political and economic change all around the planet. There are groups all over the world, hundreds and hundreds of transmission meditation groups, and you cannot do this form of service without being stimulated yourself, because the energies are moving through your etheric body, through your higher chakras. And so by taking part in this, it's a twofold process. You are serving the planet by acknowledging that it's an energetic process and you are helping these beneficent energies come into the world, and at the same time, your own evolution is being stimulated.
And I will direct the audience to the website transmissionmeditation.org. That's transmission as in car transmission. Transmissionmeditation.org. There is a wonderful video interview of Benjamin Krem explaining in detail. It's a very simple meditation, and at that website you can also find a group that meets near you just by sending an email. If you don't see a group contact there immediately, you can send an email and you'll be connected with the group that's closest to you. Or if you have two friends who would be interested in this kind of potent work. 3 people creates 1 transmission group, and you can start a group on your own. 1 year of consistent transmission meditation because of all the energies you're describing, William, flowing through the group, the fact that the group is working directly with the Masters of Wisdom to be of service to humanity. 1 year of this consistent meditation is equal to as many as 15, 20 years of personal meditation. It is that potent. So as long as you are from the age of 12 to 112, you can do transmission meditation. And there are details at the website. We will always talk about transmission meditation on this show because that is the simplest way that people can be a part of this unfolding event. And in our last couple of minutes, I do want to remind our listeners or introduce to our listeners what all of this work of the Masters and Maitreya is leading up to. There is an event that is going to set to take place for humanity called the Day of Declaration, and I want to go into more detail, but I'll have our audience look that up online, the Day of Declaration. William Allen, thank you so much. Is there any last words you'd like to share?
Keep hope alive and have no fear. All will be well.
Thank you. Thank you, William. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Join us next Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Share International Radio.